Is this the end of Dame time in Portland?
I have a hard time saying so. And the reason I have a hard time saying so is because that's my man. I love him to death, and I've spoken to him on many, many occasions over the years, many occasions. Molly, Max, this dude is dogged about his love for the city of Portland and his commitment to the Blazers organization. I want him with the Knicks. I mean, that would be a dream come true for me to have a clutch deal like that.
Of course.
Shut up with the Knicks talk.
Well, listen to me. I'm trying to educate you, brother. I told you I spoke to him. I'm just trying to give you information.
You're saying it's one of these read between the lines situations.
I'm trying to, no. I spoke to him, not yesterday, but I've spoken to him on many occasions. And I'm confessing to you, I mean, just like I brought up the Knicks to you, I brought up the Knicks to him. And he'd say, get the hell away from me with that. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I was getting to.
Yeah,
so he feels like Max does. He said that on many, many occasions. But he is made of a different ilk, y'all. He's frustrated right now, knowing him the way that I do. He has a right to be. He's not the kind of person that wants to go to L.A. and play with LeBron. He's not made of that ilk. He's not built that way. He's got 4 years and $196 million remaining on his contract. You got to trade the farm to get equitable compensation in return for him. So it seems to be a daunting task. Here's what I would tell you. In his perfect world, it's about somebody coming to Portland to join him, not about him going elsewhere to join them. And that's going to be a pretty hard sell for the Portland Trailblazers. And it's time somebody brought this up. I understand management. I look at Nurkic. I have no use for him. I know Jokic is no joke. But to abuse Nurkic like that and Nurkic to have no response is just pathetic, where Enes Kanter has to come in there and try something, okay? You look at C.J. McCollum. He ain't Damian Lillard, but he's pretty damn good at making good money. I've always stated to both of them, to their face, the combination of the two can't win because they're smaller guards and they can score on anybody, but defense is going to be a problem. You got to overcompensate. You look at Terry Stotts. When do we sit up there and say he's not the guy? Now, I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be a head coach in the NBA. What I'm saying is he's the kind of guy that knows his X's and O's. He knows what he's doing. But in terms of being a leader that can galvanize the troops and maximize the potential around you, I don't think Terry Stotts has ever shown that. And at some point in time, you've been there forever. I mean, my God, when do you make some kind of switch? Not just with personnel, but with coaching. Because clearly whatever you have ain't going to get it done. And they never do it. Yeah. And that's why Damian Lillard has expressed frustration. He's tired of going down like this, wasting a 55-point performance in Game 5 like they did. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't see it as Neil O'Shea. What you're just pointing out, I see it as Neil O'Shea, not Stotts in that case, Stephen A. Look, we know that Portland doesn't have quite enough. It's not a market that's going to attract high-priced free agents or where guys are going to demand to get traded to. So if you do find that Damian Lillard needs another superstar with him. He doesn't have that. But to give up the farm to get a superstar, they're going to let Portland know, I'm not staying in Portland, most likely. So what do? It's not enough. They may have to trade McCollum, although Anthony Simons, he's only 21, can jump out the gym, can shoot. They have some interesting pieces that maybe they could cobble something together and bring in a third guy along with Lillard and McCollum to kind of put them over the top or get them to the next level. The Knicks, Stephen A., I don't know why. If I'm the Trailblazers, the Knicks could offer me every asset they have, every player on the roster, and all their draft picks. Why would I trade that for Damian Lillard? Forget that. No, is it the end of Dame time in Portland? I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think they're going to have to make a move to make the roster better along the lines of what I just said. Figure out whether it's McCollum or maybe even, because you're right, they're small guards, or maybe even package other interesting pieces, draft picks they have together to bring in a third guy who's not Carmelo Anthony. Oh, look at that. He has more left than we thought. But a guy who's still an all-star caliber player. But Stephen A., even then, is that a championship roster? Damian, is it a championship roster?
Listen, let's be clear. I answered the question to tell you what Damian Lillard told me as to what his thinking has been consistently throughout the years. His position has never changed. Last night was the first inkling of any kind of change in his persona. I know a whole bunch of people I should say a whole bunch of people because he doesn't have a whole bunch of people in his inner circle because he don't roll like that. But the people in his inner circle I know well as well. And all of them feel he should leave. I feel he should leave. A guy like that does not belong in a small market. A guy like that needs to be on center stage with the eyes of the basketball world descending upon him because he's that kind of talent. He's that big time. But if you're going to sit up there and say, well, he ain't going anywhere, we going to keep him here, then don't you need to exhaust every means and measure to make sure he has what he needs?
Yeah.
Don't you need to alter your roster if you're Neil O'Shea? If you start, Max, he's been there 9 years. They've gotten out of the first round 3 times. Again, I'm not saying the man can't coach. I'm not saying he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm not saying he doesn't belong to be a head coach. Nate McMillan did a good job in Indiana, but he didn't get out of the first round. He lost his job. He ended up going to Atlanta and showing that he needed to be in a better market than Indiana or a better situation. Terry Stotts is not the guy that is going to get this particular Portland Trailblazers roster to any kind of promised
Let's
land.
be honest.
He's not
Real
that
quick,
guy.
Max,
Yeah.
I just want to show everybody that IG post because we talked about it a little bit before. We didn't have it, and I'm told that we have it now. There you can see the Nipsey Hussle quote, the pic, the whole thing. Obviously, no accident that he's putting that out there after that loss.
Well, speaking of Nipsey Hussle, he's feeling himself because he's got the keys to the city. I mean, that's a. But
Max,
look,
Max,
yeah.
before you go, I just got a text from somebody. They will remain nameless, but they got, let's just say they have incredible credibility when it comes to basketball. And they mentioned to me Karl Anthony Towns. Maybe you Portland and you make a move involving Nurkic, McCollum, or whomever,
and bringing
Karl Anthony Towns to join, and another person that they, I'm not saying Golden State should ever give him up, and he shouldn't consider leaving, but if Portland had a shot to get a Draymond Green and a Karl Anthony Towns,
now you're talking.
with Damian Lillard,
Now you're talking.
I mean, it's worth thinking about.